Hello, my name is Attiya Waris. I'm the UN independent expert on foreign debt and international financial obligations and their implications for human rights. And I'm also a professor at the University of Nairobi in Kenya, specializing in fiscal law and policy. It is my pleasure and honor to be able to speak to you today. Unfortunately, I could not be there, but I very much wanted to have a part in this conversation. I'm going to make a few brief comments, but my deepest connection, which I'm going to make, is the linkage between finance, fiscal transactions, fiscal systems, and the methods in which politics and power engage with these financial interactions in order to roll out a certain set of directions in a particular country or even in a region. And I will draw on examples from across the world that I think are interesting and useful, especially from a fiscal perspective. So, based on sanctions and UCMs, I would like to first start by saying that in my understanding, sanctions are those that are actually legally rolled out by the Security Council. It means that any other action taken unilaterally to coerce another member state, a human being, or an institution to do something in a particular way because another country is unhappy or a region is unhappy with it, then in my understanding, this falls under a unilateral coercive measure, and I have published on it in the past. This is my simplistic definition just for the purposes of this conversation. So using that as the simple devising role, the question then becomes, how do countries utilize fiscal systems in order to undertake unilateral coercive measures? And the biggest linchpin is actually the use of the particular currency of a country. Whether we're talking about the US dollar, and that would be out of the United States, and the SWIFT clearing system within New York, or we would be talking about euros, and in that case we would be talking about European region, the EU, the European Commission, and perhaps many other spaces which I will not mention for now, but all of these allow for control on fiscal transactions. So then how does the control roll itself out? Why does the control roll itself out in this way? Why do we allow it to roll out to the point where it is now becoming oppressive? One of the biggest challenges facing many countries across the world and individuals is that the US dollar has been pegged as being a globally transactionable currency and a hard currency. And while it has been for a long time, the challenge is that when the currency is then used in political motives, what you start to see happening is that countries are not able to fulfill their commitments. Some countries are not able to pay off their debts. Some countries are not able to receive money when they trade, and yet others are not able to pay their membership dues. So countries that come in mind, and I wrote a letter, for example, to the US government asking them to release money so that countries like Afghanistan could pay their membership dues to the United Nations. The United Nations is in a serious cash crunch. So what you start to see is that not only are countries not paying membership dues, in this particular case, countries are not able to pay membership dues because of that foreign currency control that is on it, on their particular resources. So that's the first sort of conversation around it. The second issue that I think is quite critical in this space is about credit rating agencies. There are only 3 credit rating agencies. These are all private, they're all registered in the United States. There is currently one being set up at a public level within the African Union for the African continent. But there is a challenge. This same credit rating agency that is housed in this one country in the world gets to tell you how good your country is based on its ability to pay off its debts, and whether it is good for it, whether its collateral, if you want to use more corporate terms, is good enough. And this is also a challenge because how do they have enough access to data? And researchers don't have oversight to it. It is not publicly available. And there are no special regulations in the United States specifically guiding credit rating agencies. Yet what we have is the IMF and the World Bank relying on them when they decide on giving loans, but also private investors use them to decide whether they're going to invest in a country or not. So it's a very heavy responsibility and a very important one. But the question is, should it be resting in private hands in only one country in the world? And this is a big question mark. And so then that takes me to the issue of investors and investor responsibility. And most of the high net worth individuals in the world are actually in New York or invest through entities housed in New York or the United States. A few years ago, there was a bill going through the New York State Senate that spoke towards the issue of the human rights responsibilities of high net worth individuals and investors on their investments in developing countries. And that bill, unfortunately, is still being debated. And I think it's really important that that bill comes to a particular direction, because, again, if the finances are moving through this one particular country, then this is not just about a government's power. It's also about the power of its capital. And so understanding and unpacking all of this becomes very important as we go forward. And I'm sure your conversations are going to very much go through this. And in closing, I would like to point to one last issue, which is the issue of the digital infrastructure and AI. The control on data and information is becoming more and more fraught. There are more challenges around it, and who controls it and how they control it, where they control it from, again becomes a challenge. And if you look at the records of the World Internet Council, for example, many of the servers still continue to be within the United States, which means that data access is a challenge now, not just for developing countries, but actually for countries across the world. I am sure that your event is going to unpack a lot more issues, maybe some of which are not connected to my favorite topic, which is the fiscal issues. But I really look forward to watching the conversation.